another podcast. My name is Jimmy Rex, and I'm here today with business strategist Woody. I just like to call you Woody. Is that okay?
I'll just go by Woody.
Woody Woodward.
I'm that cool, it's just Woody.
To me, you're Woody. You'll always just be Woody. It's such a cool name. And so anyway, Woody's been a close friend of mine for a couple of years now. I actually met Woody down in Lake Powell. Yeah. I was hired out actually to throw like a big trip for a multi-level marketing company. Woody was down there teaching them how to it was a really cool, it's called the emotional fingerprint, basically. We're going to get into that a little bit, but it was basically teaching people about themselves, how to motivate themselves, things like that. And me and you, what I remember from that is we just wanted to stay up all night playing games and stuff, like playing Mafia and different games like
everybody else, the second, you know what, when you go into a room and you know instantly who you like and who you don't like, I'm there with all these top executives. I look over and Jimmy is just like the life of the party, and if you ever want someone to throw you a party, Jimmy's your man.
I appreciate that.
And then I saw him like own the room. I thought, I don't know who this guy is, but we're hanging out all night long. Like whatever he is what I want to be.
No, that was great. That was one of my funnest nights in Lake Powell I think I've ever had, and I've been there who knows how many, 50 times or whatever. Yeah. So, well, and then after that, I actually hired you. I loved your stuff. You presented to us that night, and anyway, I kind of want to dive into that a little bit. The reason why I want to have you, I want you to tell your story a little bit, but more than anything today, I want you to teach. Kind of the people listening to this podcast can be a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that are newer in business and just trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. And your information helped change my life, and I'd love to kind of dive into that. But just so people have a little bit of background, Woody, tell us a little bit kind of where you started. And now, obviously, you have a series of videos, coaching, consulting. You have that, you know, he has a networking group that I joined for a little while there, and they basically
he never showed up to. He joined and never showed up.
I go out of town too often. That was the problem. But it was literally my favorite networking group I've ever been a part of. So if that makes you feel any better. They basically go do extreme things. So I think the one time we went and we played bubble soccer in a park. Another time we blew up a car.
Yeah, go out in the desert, blow stuff up.
Yes, it was amazing. What was some of the other stuff you guys did with
my favorite one I've ever done, and for those of you who are at home, do this. We rented 10 golf carts and played golf cart polo in a park until we got arrested and kicked out. And it was the best time ever.
Wow, and so did you just borrow them from one of the golf courses?
No, you know, we called a golf course and said, hey, I need you to deliver 10 to the Marine Park.
And they did it.
And they did it. Paid a couple grand. They did it. This truck comes and they only said, the one thing they said that scared me was there's no insurance on these.
Oh, yeah.
So all the guys, I said, you break it, you're paying for it. But man, we were running over each other. We were hitting mallets. It was awesome.
Like I said, Woody is probably one of the funnest human beings I've ever met in my life. So, well, give us a little bit more of your background. I mean, you and me apply the same principles to networking in life, which is it's got to be fun.
Has to be.
You know, you are just like myself. You love to mastermind. You love to travel. You always come to the events. We went to the event last Thursday. I kept looking over at you because you were just laughing the entire time. We did we rented out a comedy club for our clients, and Woody was there just
it was awesome.
Kept looking, he was laughing the entire time.
I have to say this for those of you who are entrepreneurs who are looking to really figure out what's the best way to network. We've all heard that phrase that your net worth is equal to your network. Mm-hmm. No one has a better network than Jimmy. Literally, like nobody I know, and I know millionaires and billionaires, but no one has a network better than Jimmy because he invests in his network. I get invited to countless parties that you put on your own dime. Sure. You create massive value for hundreds of people. Like the whole comedy club were all your friends, which I looked around like, I don't know this many people.
Well, it's just a fun way to do business. I mean, I literally got to hang out with 300 friends in one night.
Yeah.
At a comedy club, laughing together, mostly, you know, I mean, it's just a cool way to live and a cool way to build a business. So. Yeah. Very cool.
So a quick background on me is I dropped out of high school when I was 16. I was a millionaire at 26 and broke at 27. Since that time, I've made it back.
Hold on a sec, back up. It's interesting already. How did you become a millionaire by 26, and how did you go broke by 27?
So I sold my first idea when I was 16 years old to Zumi. So it's a clothing line company, about 250 stores nationwide. And then I dropped out of school, started investing more myself, learning. I actually didn't learn to read until I was 19 years old.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, that was my first coach I ever hired, was someone to teach me how to read. And then they got tested, and I found out that I had a 5th grade reading comprehension. And so I went on this journey of discovery. And during that time, I designed a lot of toys. So I was a toy designer.
Okay.
I worked for a company called Ohio Art. They make the Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh, sure.
And then I sold a bunch of ideas. And then we took that company through the public process. And right before it went public, my shares, my value was over $1 million. So I sold my company, my shares of my company, to my business partners at 26, multimillionaire. And then the .com bomb happened at 27.
Okay.
They both filed bankruptcy. They didn't pay me. I was investing in who knows what, and I shouldn't have been. and lost everything.
Well, it's kind of, I always say, like, the same thing happened in 2006, 2007 with the real estate bust, right? It's like, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was going to lose however much money I had made until then because I didn't know how to actually keep my wealth. Like, I had sold all these houses, you know, in the year and a half before it crashed, I'd sold 150 homes.
That's awesome.
And I lost all of it. You know, I had several homes that I had to hurry and try to get rid of. I thankfully was able to get rid of them. But I kind of think, like, when people go through the .com bust, I think it was just part of being in business at that time. A lot of people a lot smarter than me and you.
Oh, yeah.
Lost most of what they had.
But that's the funny thing, like, people don't understand. The smartest people on the planet, Harvard, Stanford, Ivy League schools, were in charge of the internet, were in charge of the .com, .bomb, Wall Street, and lost everything. Same thing happened in 2008.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, fascinating. So you lose it all then. How do you get back on your feet? I mean, you've had millions of bucks at that time, and how long did it, like, what did you do at that point?
It took me 5 to 7 years to get back on top again.
Really?
So I got into real estate.
Okay.
We had a mortgage and real estate firm in 7 states. We did over $100 million in real estate transactions. And in 2005, I sold the company. I saw the same writing on the wall. I'm like, this looks just like the .com. I'm out. August 1st of 2005, sold that company, went to a cash position, thought things were perfect, got into doing what I'm doing now. I've written 41 books, I've produced 3 movies, 3 infomercials. Yep. And in 2008, 2009, I lost it all again. Flat out lost every. I had the dream cars, the dream house. Saw my Viper get put up on a flatbed truck and drive away. Like, it was the worst.
Like, true story. Your Viper literally got repoed and the whole thing.
Okay, I'll tell you a story. I wasn't planning on sharing this story.
No, this is what people need to hear, because I think people, a lot of times you think, like, if somebody would see you now, and if you have a full conversation with you about business, you're like, wow, this guy has that figured out. But I mean, this is the kind of stuff that got you to where you now have it, you know, in that position. But yeah, please explain again what happened at this point, because this is...
All right, I was not going to share this, but because it's Jimmy, I will.
Yes.
I'll never forget. It was 2009 November. I'm outside. I'm washing my wife's car. I bought her a brand new Lexus for her birthday. It was her dream car about a year earlier. And it was November. I lived in Southern California. Beautiful day. Wash the car, and this flatbed truck comes up with a dually, big tires, and a flatbed trailer, and 5 burly guys get out. And I thought, oh man, they're here for the car. Because I had gone to cash. Like, I paid cash for everything. But when 2008 happened, I started borrowing against my assets, like we all do as entrepreneurs, to survive. I never knew that 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011 would keep going the way it did. So the guy comes up and says, hey, I'm here for that car. I said, no problem, it's detailed, it's clean. And I said, let me, if you don't mind, can I clean out the inside? Going through it, and I find this pink little cup, and it's my daughter's cup, who's 6 months old. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how do I explain this to her? Like, how do I... We're losing this car. Like, how do I, as a father, that pride, that like, how do I explain it? And I said, do you guys mind if I just drive around the corner and you can pick it up there? You know what? Pride and ego. I don't want my neighbors to see it. Like, yeah, no problem. So, pull around. I walk back to the house. My wife's there. My older boys are there. And this guy pulls up in another car with a camera. And I thought, okay, in Southern California at that time, people were trashing stuff because they were angry. So I thought, he's here for insurance purpose. Makes sense. So I said, you know, sir, no problem. If you're here for the car, it is right around the corner. You can take pictures of it. I'm sure they're still loading it. And he looks at me. He's like, I'm not here for your car. I'm here for your house. I said, oh. And he said, you got to be out by December 17th. And he goes, I need to put this foreclosure notice on. I have to take a picture of it. I'm like, okay. So I run inside. I go on my WellsFargo.com account. And what you guys don't know, and as entrepreneurs, I'm going to give you the best advice. Like, hey, I'll tell you right now, multi-million-dollar advice right here. Do not keep all of your cash in one account. So what you don't know in the fine print, if you go 32 days past due, they have the right to liquidate every account you have to pay any bill you have with them. So they want you to have your business lines there. So I had 8 checking and savings, business checking savings, 3 kids' college accounts, and my retirement account. All in 8 accounts, all at Wells Fargo, all 0. In 5 minutes, I lost my car, my house, and every ounce of cash I had. Ran upstairs, went through a little shoebox to see how much cash I had, and counted up and how many days can I live on this, basically. Ran downstairs, told my wife and kids, I said, we're gonna go celebrate. And they looked at me like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, we just lost our house or our car. I said, you don't understand. We will never be this broken. Like, it's physically impossible. Like, it is physically impossible. A, no one's gonna give us any credit. B, we'll never be in this position ever again. And so I remember my kids were like, Dad, we can't do that. And I remember a story, and I've lived my life by stories. Thomas Edison, his son woke him up in the middle of the night one night and said, Dad, Menlo Park, the studio, is on fire. We got to get the fire brigade. We got to put out the fire. And he's like, no, go back to bed. He's like, Dad, wake up, you're asleep. Wake up, we've got to get up, we've got to get up. And 3 times, Edison said no. Finally said, son, let it burn to the ground. Tomorrow we'll rebuild. So I told my kids, I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Lucille's, which is a barbecue place in California.
Okay.
And I said, you're going to eat the biggest T-bone steak you've ever had in your life. You're going to eat that, but you're going to take that bone home and you're going to put it underneath your pillow. When you get hungry at night and you want some protein, you're going to suck on that bone. Because it's the last time you're going to have protein for the next, like, 18 months. It's going to be peanut butter jelly and it's going to be top ramen. And it was. And in that moment, it's those moments as an entrepreneur that you define who you really are.
Yes.
It's not skill set, it's not mindset. It's in those hardest moments, who are you really? And I remember that time I had 37 credit cards.
Wow.
I had 800 credit score. I had 7 figures. I had 8. I had
they're giving you whatever you apply
whatever I applied for. I had. In fact, I should probably show you guys. I have them stapled together. In fact, hold on. I know this is bad, but hold on.
So, what I want you guys to take away from this interview, right? We're in Woody's house right now, and this is one of the most beautiful homes in all of Saratoga Springs, Utah. Oh, this is hilarious.
So I'm just going to start this going up. Here is 37 credit cards, cable tied together as an entrepreneur, what it takes to play the game at the level you want. It's like 7 feet tall.
So explain to my audience here a little bit, like you got those so that to build your business up? Is that what you were?
As an entrepreneur, you know, I'm a high school dropout. No one's giving me
I've never had anybody wear
it's like a scarf, you know. It's like
it's good. It's like I like it.
But no one's gonna give you a loan.
If you were a girl, or a woman, I would run so far from you.
That would be wise.
Yes.
But here's the other cool thing. So when we lost it all, I swore I would never have debt again. Like that was it. So it was February of 2010 that I canceled all those cards, or let's be honest, they canceled on me. Sure. No, let's be honest, they canceled on me. I have not had a single credit card since then. Everything I own, I paid cash for. My wife's birthday was in August, so a month ago. Bought our brand new convertible Corvette. It's in the garage. Wrote a check. That to me was like the greatest experience. To be able to do that after going through hell and back, and knowing that I didn't lose my family, I didn't lose my wife, I didn't lose my faith, I didn't lose who I was as a man. And to write that check, priceless to me.
Well, and it's a testament to who you are, though, because you taught me the number one thing that I learned from you when I hired Woody to be my business strategy member, whatever strategy, and you taught me. I don't know if you obviously remember, but we talked about being internal versus external, and basically the premise of it is everybody has certain things that you're going to do that you are just going to do them because they make you feel significant, and everybody has a fingerprint or a footprint basically of what makes that person tick, what makes you feel significant. And when you helped me build mine, you said the most important thing is you're either going to go about this internally or externally. And internally is you come from a good place. You come from a place of strength and of knowing who you are. But externally, you're coming from a spot of just trying to get validated from an outside source. I mean, you explain it better than me, but...
No, you nailed it. I'll explain real quick, because that was the thing that turned it around for me. Up until that point, before I started borrowing against our assets, I'd signed a 6-figure book deal with a company, and it was a New York publishing company. We were getting published in 11 languages.
Wow.
And it was like, it's significant because in 2008, nobody was getting book deals, let alone 6-figure book deals. But they didn't pay me for 18 months. So I would live on all the savings, and then I lived on the leverage of the assets, and the whole book was called Your Emotional Fingerprint, and it was how to live internally. So here I am in the worst external environment of my life.
Sure.
But I had to write the book on how to be internal, yet still try to live internally. And that's when I was able to prove to myself that it totally works. And every client I've ever had since then, it works.
And so how does one, so people listening here, they're probably thinking right now, like, well, how do I make sure I'm living internally versus externally? Explain it in a little more detail and help us understand how to get there. Because I think somebody that's just listening is going to be very interested in that.
So I'd recommend go to nomortherapy.com. So nomortherapy.com. Put in a fake email. Like, I don't care, I don't need your email. Just put in a fake email. And you'll be able to identify the 7 key characteristics that make you feel important. So that's what you're talking about, that significance, that identity of who you are. Those 7 key characteristics, how you get those met is how you fail or succeed, by that internal or external. So internal means...
And I'll give them an idea. Mine were friends, family, life experiences,
Winning control.
Winning control. Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's good because if you do it the right
neutral,
way,
yeah,
but they are
neutral
things.
by
That's
nature.
right. They're all neutral, but they need to be. Yeah, there's certain ones that you got to be able to.
You got to be careful on.
Exactly. And anyway, it's just cool to see what those were for me and to understand them more. I think another one was performing. Was another one.
Exactly.
And so anyway, and if you know me, you're like, oh yeah, it's Jimmy to a T. You know, so the podcast itself would
so it comes down to your motive. Like, what is your motive to feel important? External is anything outside your control. Internal is anything within your control. So how you act in this life, and just go to the media, go to social media, go online, look at anybody's actions, and ask: are they doing it internally for them, by them, or are they doing it externally for them, by the world? So take Donald Trump, regardless of your political belief, look at his behavior. His behavior is very external.
Yes.
Tweets about everything. And it backfires on him consistently and constantly. Yeah. So look at someone who's very internal, and their life, their success is through the roof in peace, happiness, harmony, health, wealth, and you control it. So you're not dictated by other people. So as an entrepreneur,
well, that's my favorite part. Is you control and train. It's one of my favorite quotes. Is from the book Viktor Frankl.
Yes, Man's Search
for Meaning. Yeah, and he says, you know, the one thing that nobody else could ever take from me is how I react to any given situation. And it's such a beautiful quote because you can do the worst thing in the world can happen to you. The worst thing, I mean, he was in a concentration camp in Germany, watching all of his peers be killed, and he survived that because he said the one thing they can't strip me of, the only thing I have is how I choose to react to whatever these people do to me. And that's like the best example of being internal that I've ever heard in my life. Right?
It absolutely is. In fact, there's another, and most people have heard this in personal development, where there's a ship coming in the coast of Maine, sees an oncoming light, and the light, the captain of the ship, the battleship, says, hey, flash a light, move 10 degrees to the east. Light comes back, no, you move 10 degrees to the west. Now he's a captain of a battleship.
Sure.
He's like, I'm a captain, move 10 degrees to the east. Light comes back, I'm a third-class seaman, move 10 degrees to the west. Now he's really egotistical, very external, like pompous, like, I'm a battleship, move 10 degrees to the east. Light comes back, I'm a lighthouse, move 10 degrees to the west.
That's good.
You know, being internal is that lighthouse. A lighthouse knows who it is, doesn't need to prove it to anybody. It knows who he is. Therefore, it shines light to the world, but it's the external waves that crash on us that destroy us.
Wow, I love that. I'll give another quick example from my life of that. I went to a Tony Robbins Date with Destiny last year. It's a 6-day seminar in Florida. Get there if you ever want to have a life-changing experience. But one time, one of the parts, he was talking about he wanted to show the beauty of women's femininity and then show how that works perfectly with passionate relationships with men's masculinity. And I've been told from some friends that are really into this stuff, you know, masculine man doesn't go out and dance and take his shirt off and all that stuff. A masculine man is just kind of set. He's like, knows who he is, all that, right? And so Tony has like 20, 30 people go on the stage and do this, and he had the women go first for femininity, and you'd vote which one was the most feminine looking, right? And then he goes, all right, men go up, and all the guys are dancing, and I'm just standing there kind of poised, like, you know, like feeling like, oh yeah, I'm nailing this, I know exactly what it's. And so they're voting, and I got pretty good response, you know, I was looking like a masculine man. And it was funny because Tony goes, well, here's the bottom line. A masculine man is none of you, because a masculine man would never try to prove himself to these other people. I was like, oh yeah, no, he got me good. It was so good. And I was just like, I knew it. The second he said, I just put my head down and walked off. I was like, man, he got me so good right there. So anyway, that was a great example to me as well. So hold on one second. So anyway, the reason I got disrupted right there, sorry about that. I set my alarm every day for 11:11 a.m., 4:44 p.m., and 11:11 p.m. Those are the world-known gratitude times. And so every day it goes off, and I give gratitude. I forgot to turn it off for this podcast, but grateful.
So give me your gratitude. I want to hear it.
Yeah, so right now I'm saying I'm grateful for the training that I had with you. That's what came to my mind. So that really changed my views on a lot of things and helped me a lot. So in fact, one of the main things I got when I started training with you, I was really afraid to be by myself, if you remember this. I was afraid to go, if one night happened where I was by myself, I'd start kind of freaking out a little bit about it. And so I'd always go to the gym, go find friends, waste a lot of time. And it's because I was looking for external things to feed my friends and my performing and all those different things, control, right? All those different things that I needed. And so through the training, I've gotten so much better than that. And you made me, do you remember?
Yeah, I totally remember that.
Yeah, he'd make me go to movies by myself. He would make me go to, just go on dates by myself, like just go get dinner and go do an activity.
Spend time alone.
And at first I felt so uncomfortable. Yeah. And you learn to lean into the uncomfortability and really make changes. So that was an awesome training I got from that. So anyway, so when my alarm goes off at 4:44,
I love that.
That's what it is. And what's kind of a funny side product of it is, It's the same alarm that I wake up to, and my brain has literally been hardwired now. It's like that Pavlov's dog or whatever, right? Every morning when my alarm goes off to wake up, instead of being groggy, it immediately goes to gratitude. It's a really cool thing. So, anyways.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, well, I want to get into a little bit. You've got the 5 stages of beliefs.
Yeah.
That's something I think would be super helpful for people to learn. Go ahead and just kind of explain a little bit what that is. Get into a little bit of detail because it's something fascinating that I think the audience will appreciate.
So I've read over 1,000 biographies. I'm fascinated by why people do what they do. So the reason I wrote or developed Emotional Fingerprint was to identify what makes us think and tick and drive, because I believe if you know why you do what you do, you can change how you go about it. So I started thinking about belief. Like, what causes belief? Like, where does it come from? Where does it go? Are there stages of it? And I've identified 5 stages. So the first stage is impossible. No matter what you're going through, and whenever you start a new habit, a hobby, it's impossible. Okay. And I remember one of my middle son, he was 5 years old, he's 14 now, he's 5 years old. We're in our house in California. He's playing the Nintendo Wii. And he's got both hand sticks, and he's playing tennis. So he's playing both sides. After like 15 minutes, he gets so mad, he throws them on the ground and says, I can never win, I give up. And I'm about to lose. Like, that's my gene pool. Like, that's my kid. It's like, sweetheart, you're both winning and losing simultaneously. Do you understand that? No, Dad, I know, I can do it. I said, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So he goes another 5 minutes, hucks him at the ground, almost breaks him, like, I quit, I give up. I thought, how many of us as adults do the same thing? We're doing something and we are winning, but if it's not meeting that external expectation, we think we're losing.
Because of the false expectation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so we start at impossible. And then we graduate to improbable. Like, impossible is it can't be done. Improbable is like, it might work for you, but it won't work for me.
Sure.
And at that stage, we get really stuck in our identities, like who we think we are, who we believe we are. We buy into what our parents told us. We think, oh, I'm not smart enough. Like, I was told by my 1st grade teacher that I couldn't read, that I was stupid. My 5th grade teacher confirmed that to me again. I dropped out of 2 middle schools and, well, got kicked out of 2 middle schools and I dropped out of high school. I was improbable for me to succeed.
Wow.
I went to jail at age 18. So it was one of those things where I followed that belief. But when you break through that shell, you hit possible. And that's where life really becomes fun.
Think of stage 3.
Stage 3. Okay. So impossible, improbable, possible. Now it's optimistic. And you fly all the time. Like, have you ever been on a plane, like, I'm 30,000 feet in the air. Like, how the hell do we get here? Like, how does this happen?
Yeah.
And it's because some entrepreneur, some crazy person said, it's possible. Yeah. Like, let's make that thing happen. And they do. And then, after you have that confidence, you graduate to probable. So think of Vegas. Vegas has probability. The odds are always for the house. That's why they have these billion-dollar buildings. They weren't donated. And the probability means that, yes, statistically speaking, you're going to win majority of the time. And that's fantastic, because when you get to probable, you really start to play differently. As an entrepreneur, you really start going for it.
Putting a little bit more
effort, more belief,
more just everything into it. Yeah.
In fact, there was 2 people, John and Washington Roebling. They decided to build a bridge connecting Brooklyn to Manhattan, and everyone said it was impossible. Like, in the news, the paper said, no way, it can't be done. They raised some money. They're building the first tower. Within 3 months, it falls, kills John Roebling, the dad. Wow. Puts Washington Roebling in the hospital with a coma. Comes out of his coma. He can blink his eyes and he can move his index finger. For the next 13 years, he taps on his wife's arm instructions for the engineers to build the Brooklyn Bridge. We have the Brooklyn Bridge today because somebody believed it was probable. Wow. They thought for 13 years he would tap out instructions. Engineers would come to the hospital, the wife, they would tap it out. She would explain to them what to go back and do. But then the most important part is that stage 5, inevitable. If you look at the definition of inevitable, it means unable to stop. So if you've ever been on an icy road, especially here in Utah, and you're sliding, you're like, I'm going to hit that curb, and you do, it was inevitable. Because the force of that engine, that car, on the ice, law of gravity, boom, you hit. Why can't business be the same way? Why can't it be inevitable for success?
Well, what is it that holds people back from getting to inevitable?
Their mindset. Who they are. Who their identity is. Emotional fingerprint. What stops them mentally. Because having read 1,000 biographies and I've written 41 books, I can systematically prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. You give me any problem you have, and I guarantee I give you 20 other people who had it worse than you and still succeeded.
Great point.
I give you 2,000 names worse than you, and they still succeeded. Yeah. So it has nothing to do with money, relation, education. My first book I wrote was called Millionaire Dropouts, because I cataloged 1,000 people who had dropped out, who became president of the United States, who became rock stars, athletes, Nobel Prize winners, scientists, doctors. So whatever story you're telling yourself, is in that impossible and improbable belief cycle.
Wow.
Get past that, you hit inevitability.
Oh, that's great. I had on a previous podcast, if you guys want to go back and listen again, Trevor Milton, he's the CEO, founder of Nikola Motors. They're building a hydrogen-based truck that's going to get 6 times as much energy as insane. And every single person the whole time told him he was nuts, this ain't going to work. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, Tesla's going to, all these different things. And they just raised another round at a $900 million valuation. And this dude, like, I invested my money with him because he just doesn't understand anything other than inevitable. I mean, it's going to happen. Like, I watch how the guy works, how his mind works, and it's just, to him, it's already done. And now it's just making it happen. And so I understand at a pretty good level. If you want to get a little bit more of that mindset, go back and listen to Trevor's interview from an earlier podcast. But that's amazing. So how do people, what's the best thing people can do to get from that first stage, impossible, to, through the stages to the 5th stage of inevitable?
So, I believe you have to plant seeds. So take the acronym of SEEDS. I love acronyms. So S is sample. Sample biography. Read about somebody who's done something harder than you. The first E is you got to experiment on it. Test it. Try if that actually worked or not. The second E is examine. So a lot of people try stuff, but they don't actually examine their own work. Like, did it work or not? Just because you can cook a pizza doesn't mean you should open up a Domino's. So examine whether or not it was profitable or unprofitable. And then the D is make a decision. If you look up the etymology of decide, it means to cut off, like burn the boats. Make a decision and jump all in. That instantly graduates you to that next level, the next level. Now here's something that I didn't realize until like 2 years later after creating the 5 stages of belief, is I looked at people who were really successful and then failed and couldn't get back off the ground. I thought, why not? Because
you made it.
I have so many stories of people who had nothing and made it, but there are those stories of people who lost it and never got back on their feet. Same thing, they started at inevitable, then they went to probable, possible, improbable, impossible, and they stayed there. They lost their money. 08, 1999, it's impossible. I got lucky, I can't do it. And they literally climbed down that same stages.
Well, it's interesting because the mindset, I think, too, it's important for people to know, like, the mindset even of somebody that's succeeding. I used to sell meat door to door. That was one of the first things that I did.
Of course you did.
And I in 3.5 years of selling meat door to door, I mean, year round, my worst day I ever had, I made $181 profit. That was my worst day, literally knocking on selling meat. Profit, $181. Yet, I can't tell you when I was starting out how many days I would go out and say, who is ever going to buy another case of meat off me? Like, who is going to buy 60 steaks at once from me today? And it was that mindset, and it was my struggle for years, and it took me a long time. And then I got to the point where it was like, I honestly knew no matter what, I wasn't going home till I sold the entire lot of meat. And I literally was able to do it every single day. And I kind of went from that improbable mindset to inevitable. It was going to happen. If I didn't, I knew 100% it's because I just didn't knock any doors. Like,
and that's it.
Work,
And you look at anyone who has been successful, and if you are an entrepreneur, please study the lives of entrepreneurs. That is it, because you can take anyone, you or myself, drop us in any city, and in 30 days we'll make any amount of money we want to make.
No, it's
I know that for a fact. I've done it.
Well, and here's something I want to tell my readers is because I'm huge on reading. I read 100 books last year. I read 100 books the year before that. This year I'll be around 50 or 60. I've been doing a lot more interviews and podcasts and listening to a lot of stories that way. But if you don't like reading or you're just like struggling to pick up a book to get buy audible.com, buy books about successful people because they're fascinating stories. I learned more reading listening to Andre Agassi and Mike Tyson's autobiographies than almost anything else I've ever read. But then I'll throw in, Warren Buffett and you go, Richard Branson and just everybody else. But so if you're trying to like, okay, I know I'm supposed to read. Everybody says that, the more you read, the more successful you're going to be. The top 100 CEOs, I think on average, read 60 books a year. Listen to them. Well, so another thing, I think people listening to this podcast, I think your story is an example of like just that fighting through the adversity, staying internal. Now that you're here, you're in this stage, you're like, what would you like to tell? I know I hate the question, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? I wouldn't tell them anything because I wouldn't want my story to That's what I'd tell my 20-year-old. No. No, I wouldn't want to change my story. But what advice do you have for somebody, say that's 20, that's maybe like looking at, like you said you're a high school dropout, you had some things, happen young to you getting thrown in jail, different things like that. What advice do you have to get back to an internal place if you don't feel like you are there today, maybe stuff like that?
That's a great question. I think what it comes down to is perspective. If you really know what this world's about, if you really understand what money is about, if you really understand what relationships are about, and you really have a true, wholesome, internal perspective, nothing's hard to endure. It's that external perspective of, I gotta have the right house, the right cars, the right name tag, the right title on the tag, that kind of stuff, the things that don't matter, the things you can't take with you. I mean, I've never gone to a funeral and seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul. Like, you're not taking it with you, and we all say that, but the truth is, you're really not. So when you really believe and really understand you're not, then you start to invest in different things that don't die, like relationships, information, knowledge. Those things keep the right perspective all the time.
I love that. No, I think it's work harder on yourself than you work on your business. That whole idea of, like, you know, for me, I have no fear of, I'm able to take a lot of risks. You know, I'm able to do a lot of cool things. And I think part of what has gotten me to that spot is I know I've worked so hard on myself that I look at myself as my asset, and I know that I can go out and recreate this thing. And so I think it's great. I think it's a great place to stop. This is amazing. I'm gonna put some links to that assessment on this video. If you're on YouTube. If you're listening to this, we'll have it there on the podcast as well. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Thanks for all you've done for me.
Always a pleasure.
All righty. Thanks, buddy.